and welcome to Simple Stamping Saturday, can't say it, with me, Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in the UK. Thank you for joining me today. You may be, oh no, you can't really see it. No, I'm trying to keep it slightly secret what I'm doing. So I have only just, and I don't know why I've waited, got the From All of Us stamp set, which is in the annual catalogue. That's the big fat one that we keep forgetting we've got, because we've got the mini catalogue as well, but there's lots of stuff in the annual catalogue. So I thought this was rather cute. And you can use it for all sorts of occasions, because you can do happy birthday, you can do thank you, you can just do From All of Us. We think you're the best is just amazing. So yeah, I thought I would have a play. So as it's Simple Stamping Saturday, I am starting with one of our note cards and envelopes. This is our basic white, and this is what I have made. Very simple. I'm using watercolour pencils and a blender pen. And then because it's Simple Stamping Saturday, we've got to have something on the envelope. So I've got our little tortoise peeking around the edge. So let me start and show you how I made this. So note cards come pre-scored. I've got my stamp. It's a large stamp, so I've got it on my E-block. You could use your Stamparatus if you're a little concerned about getting a good image straight off. Just make sure that everything is well inked and you should be fine. If you like a really black, then I would recommend the Stamparatus. You could use StazOn. I'm not a huge fan of StazOn because I'm lazy and StazOn needs a bit of a clean-up. So I'm going bottom right-hand corner. I'm one of those people that I get a little upset if things aren't quite central. So I would rather they were definitely not central than not quite central. So I've gone bottom right, and we've got a nice clear impression, so that's all good. While I've got the ink pad out, I'm going to do the sentiment, which is just thanks from all of us. I'm going top left, just to balance everything out. And I love that this is a bit of an offset font, because it doesn't matter if you get it slightly crooked. It won't show that it's crooked because then the letters are all jumbled. So there is no really straight edge. So that is our stamping all done. So I'm going to move those out of the way so there is a little bit of a less chance of me actually putting my hand on them, on my sleeve. Right, oh, I do need to do the stamping on the outside of the envelope, and for that I'm actually going to change my inking, because in order to get just the tortoise, you need to just ink the tortoise, which is not that easy with the memento. It's possible. I suppose I could give it a try. But I actually used the single basic black Stampin' Right marker, which you can buy on their own. But I will see if I can do this without inking anything else. The key really is to not have too much of his head poking round the edge of the envelope. I am just going to, I've got a new piece of grid paper, so I'm just going to scoot that to one side and use the old piece to overlap. So I'm going to, hopefully, if I get both his feet on, I should be about right. Load, aim, fire. Yes, that's good enough. It's not quite to the edge, but what you could do is get a black felt tip pen. Obviously the Stampin' Right marker would be perfect, and just draw in the missing lines like that. But if you want to ink it, just use the, just use the edge. And just come in and just rub the ink over the stamp. It's really easy. Works really, really well. Gives a nice crisp impression. You could use the single Stampin' Right marker to stamp, but I wouldn't then recommend using the blender pen to blend your watercolour pencils, because you'll probably end up smudging it, because it is definitely a water-based ink. So I have a selection of watercolour pencils, and they are from both sets. Sorry. Sometimes it just has to be done. I'm just going to bring that in as my reference. The difficulty with the watercolour pencils is that you don't have much in the way of brown, but I have used what I've got, which is Early Espresso, crushed curry. Oh, I did use crushed curry, and Cajun Craze. The Early Espresso I am going to use on our bear's nose, and I'm going to use quite a lot on the nose because I want it good and dark. And then I'm going to just gently rub across his snout with the Early Espresso. I do want it to kind of cover the whole area. So I'm not putting much pressure on because I don't want too much pigment coming onto my paper or card. So cover that, and then I'm going to do the same again on his stomach. And just go in amongst my monkey's arms. And then here, so it's very gentle. As I say, I'm hardly putting any pressure on at all. And when we blend that out, it will just be a nice sort of hint of colour. And then the monkey is also going to be in Early Espresso, and we're going to have, again, a pale face. And then everything else is going to be a little bit darker. The ears are only going to be a little bit darker. And then the rest of him is going to be that bit darker. So I'm just putting more pressure on, and because I'm putting more pressure on, more pigment is transferring from the watercolour pencil to the image. So it really is just a question of the amount of pressure. You can just go over it again and again, which will also build up the pigment, but I do find that pressure really is the key. So, are you all getting excited for Halloween? Because there wasn't really very much trick-or-treating last year with the dreaded pandemic. But certainly in the UK, I think people will be going trick-or-treating. I had an interesting statistic heard one on the radio earlier this week, because I think people are thinking that the UK has got quite a high infection rate at the moment, and there was one of these expert scientist medical jobbies on the radio who said the thing is that we're actually testing more. So if you compare us with Germany, for example, which is a much larger country, but with roughly, I believe, the same size population, we're testing 10 times more than Germany. So surprise, surprise, we are picking up asymptomatic people. Right, so over here we are putting some sort of mid-intensity on the splodges. Don't know what you will call those, but those splodgy bits on his shell. Like that. And then that is everything I need Early Espresso for. While I'm doing browns, I'm going to finish off his shell, and this is crushed curry, so it's not really a brown. Now what I find is once I've got a reasonable layer of one colour down, you don't have to worry so much about going over the lines, because it will, the layer that you've got down will resist taking another colour. That's all I'm using the crushed curry for, but on the basis I'm using both sets, I don't have to limit myself to a smaller number of colours, is my theory. So Cajun Craze for our bear. I'm leaving a little bit of a gap in the middle of his ears because I'm going to come in with some other colour to do the middle of his ears. Same with the monkey. And I want his eyes to be white, so the key to that is to not colour over them. Something that on occasions I'm not very good at remembering. Now, because we've not got much colour on the early espresso areas here, I'm going to be a little bit more careful about where I'm going with the Cajun Craze. And the same here. But in this area where I've got quite a lot of pigment from the early espresso, it will resist the Cajun Craze. Because it's slightly waxy. I mean, obviously it's not waxy, because if it was waxy it wouldn't be water soluble, which would mean it wouldn't be a watercolour pencil. But it's got that waxy feel to it, so it's a bit of a resist. Paws, legs. So that's the Cajun Craze done. Flirty Flamingo is my next colour, and I'm going to have Flirty Flamingo on my ostrich. And I want her legs to be quite definitely Flirty Flamingo. I had a look on Google for cartoon ostriches to see what colour legs I should do, and this was about as near as I could get. You could use Calypso Coral if you haven't got both sets of watercolour pencils, but I do quite like the Flirty Flamingo, and I'm also going to put some Flirty Flamingo on the insides of their ears, which will just give that little bit of a difference in colour. Right, now for the rest of our ostrich, I've got some basic grey for her wings and her tail. In the wild they're kind of white, but white doesn't really, you know, to try and blend into white is weird. And then I'm going to have grey on her eyelids, and then that's it with the grey. For the rest of her I'm using the black, and I'm not going mad with the black. The black is quite a soft pencil, but I don't want it to be too black. If you put too much down, it kind of it looks too dark in relation to everything else. And I've just gone into her wing. Didn't really want to do that. There is a white, so if you do go too dark, you can bring white in. This is Bermuda Bay, which I'm going to use around his beak. No, it's not. It's Coastal Cabana, which I want to use on his body. I will then see if I can get Bermuda Bay onto his beak, or round his beak. Yes. In luck. And because they're the same sort of colour, it will work fine. And then I want that on his wings and his tail. Then to finish him off, we're having pumpkin pie on his beak. And then I've just got to do my tortoise, and we can blend. So green on the tortoise. Oh, and I do need to do his toenails. And there's just another little bit of tortoise just there, which you don't want to miss, otherwise you'll end up with this kind of white, strange whiteness. Early espresso on his toenails. Like that. So that's our colouring done, and I've got a blender pen. Now I always make sure that my blender pen is clean before I use it, and when I change colour I will scribble it off, and I'm going to use the corner of my grid paper because then it will fade into it. So I'm going to start with the light early espresso, as in we didn't put very much down, and Now you may find, and this is just beginning to do it, that until the memento is really dry, it may smudge. Really dry takes a wee while. If you are worried about that, then StazOn will be your friend. Apart from the fact it will be a very long cleanup, because you need to use StazOn cleaner, and you need to then get the StazOn cleaner off. So, hence I don't use StazOn very much. And his snout. And then our monkey. And then I just go over that Flirty Flamingo. Scribble that off a bit because it might carry across. These pens, they come in a pack of 3. I want to say they're about £11, I can't remember. I will list everything on my website, which is linked below. If you look into the description bar, you will find a link to the associated blog post. And that will take you straight to my website, where I will share pictures of this and the 2 stepped up versions, which I will show you in a minute. Then we want to do this. But yes, you get 3 for, as I say, it's something around £11, I think. And they last forever. They will stain, so the end will stain, but as long as it's running clear, that is fine. Oh, I missed his nose. Can't miss his nose. There we are. So that's what I mean by running clear. If I now scribble that on my clean paper, but it is, I don't know if you can see that it is actually slightly stained. Right, so next colour I'm going to do will be the Cajun Craze. Yes, his face is really quite smudged, but the other one's all right. This one I stamped, then left, did my stepped up versions, went shopping, came back, and it didn't smudge. So as I say, it probably doesn't take that long to dry properly, but that's what I did between stamping it and actually blending the colour. So it does make quite a difference if you can leave it until it is really dry. The other thing you want to not do is go over one area too much with your blender pen if you haven't left it to dry. Because the blender pen is wet, it will break down the fibre of the paper. So if you go over the same area too much, it will break down the fibre and it will look really nasty. It will pill. So it's a bit like when you get bits on your jumper. It will be that sort of look. It's not attractive. And once it's broken it down, there's nothing you can do. Right, so that's all the Cajun Craze. So I'm going to do my crushed curry next. Clean that off, and we'll do the Granny Apple Green. I had to think about that for a moment. There's Garden Green, Granny Apple Green, and Old Olive are your greens. I'm going to go into the Coastal Cabana, and I'm not going to clean before going on to the Bermuda Bay because they are basically the same colour, just one is more intense than the other. Now I will clean and do the beak. Oh, I didn't do his toenails, did I? Right, so if memory thinks, if I'm right, all I've got to do now is my ostrich. So I'm going to start here. Now I'm going to come in across there. This is much paler than the neck and the legs. You could speed up the drying process if you just put it on a radiator or something like that. Just be slightly circumspect as it might curl the card if it's too warm. If you have underfloor heating, that would be perfect, which is what I have in here. Not that it's on yet, but in the winter when the underfloor heating's on, it's great for drying things. So this is where I do the black, and you can probably see, I'll bring it up in a moment, that the black is really quite intense. So you do need to just be a little bit careful about not using too much, otherwise it can overpower everything else. And that is our card done. So the only other thing I need to do is to fold it, grab my bone folder, which for once I know where it is, and that is my card. And as I say, you can possibly see that here it's smudged a bit because it wasn't dry, whereas on this one it didn't smudge because it was dry. And we've got our envelope all ready to go. So, first stepped up version, I have done the same stamping. Colouring is done with stamping blends. And then I've just I've just done this on strips and popped these up on dimensionals. And the paper that I have used is, she says, dipping underneath her desk. It's the pattern paper, designer series paper, which is party pattern even, which is the host set, which is huge. I mean, it's got all sorts of wonderful patterns in, and it's colour on one side and black and white on the other. So really good pack. You get 48 sheets, so lots of paper. And as I say, you can only get it for free with your host rewards, so very worthwhile getting if you've got host rewards. So again, I've used very much the same sort of colours. Certainly here are the same colours. Here's the same colours. Here, because we don't have early espresso, I've used a mixture of soft suede, which is the bear, and then crumb cake, which is the everything else. So dark and light crumb cake. But yeah, rather cute. And then I've just got some basic rhinestones around. And then for my next stepped up version, it's the same, but it's dimensional. So I've cut round the images and done some decoupage with dimensionals between. And then this is on basic black with white heat embossing. And on both of these, I've just put a strip of the paper on the inside as well. So yeah, those are our cards. Don't often do landscape, but I think I might have to do some more landscape. But so there we go. Those are our cards for today. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, which is the bottom right hand corner. And of course, if you're in the UK or Europe, you can shop with me on my online store. There's a link to that below and over on my website. So have a fantastic Saturday. And I will see you again very soon, I hope. I am live on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock UK time and Thursday afternoon 3 p.m. UK time. Our clocks change between Saturday and Sunday, so overnight Saturday, and we go back an hour, as does Europe. So if you're used to us being on one time frame, if you haven't changed at the same time that we've changed, we may be on a different time. Anyway, I think enough of that. My brain is clearly scrambled. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you again soon. Bye!